There's the crypto siege with another day in the life in the crazy life that is the digital asset space. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to each and every one of you. What an exciting, a crazy exciting time to be an early adopter in this new asset class that is the digital asset space. You and I, my friends, we're playing a game that 99.99% of the masses don't even know is being played. And we are freaking winning. We're winning, my friends. We are winning. And winning. Listen, guys, the market is doing what the market does. We'll go over that for sure. We'll definitely go over that without question. We'll definitely get into it. And hold on a second. Let me do this again. Hey, what is going on, crypto people? It is the Crypto Siege with another day in the life, in the crazy life that is the digital asset space. So listen, guys, the market is doing what the market does. That is without question. We'll go over that. George Gammon, shout out to George and his channel. Interesting stuff. The real deal, what the global elite's real plan is, and the spin of and how they're spinning the narrative of cross-border payments. And I know everyone who listens to this channel is all about cross-border payments. We're going to show you how they're using, the global elite, in my humble opinion, are using the cross-border narrative to, for their end game, which is control, having more power and not having us to have any choices. They want to control our food. They want to control energy, and they want to control the money. And we'll get into that as well. A lot of stuff going on Twitter for sure. David Schwartz, RippleXRP boys share something from David Schwartz about a year or so ago that I find to be very, very fascinating. We'll get into that as well. But in any case, guys, listen, this is your XRP Ripple daily news. And around 0 to 10 minutes. Let's do this. So the Bitcoin dominance is 43.8% according to CoinGecko. Yeah, that is not a great number. The total cryptocurrency market cap is at 1.27 trillion. And at one time in history of crypto, it was over $3 trillion. Bitcoin is currently $29,243. Again, Ethereum is at $1,798. Again, and XRP is at 38.7 cents. Freaking again, the market, guys, is just doing what the market does. Interesting little article about Tron in the USD stablecoin. It continues to just, I think, do interesting stuff. Trading at 8 cents is up to 10. It's up 10% on the 7-day. Very, very interesting to see that. But a lot of double figure reds. In any case, does it really matter, guys? Red or greens? We're not at 3 trillion in total cryptocurrency market cap. Now the swing traders and the day traders, man, God bless them. They are, obviously in positions to win for sure in this space. What is EVMOS? I felt like I've heard that before. It's up 122% on the 7-day. Look at that chart there. Good night. Trading at $3.15, but I don't know what it is. Do your own homework, do due diligence on that. But again, the market cap is at 1.27 trillion, and at one time it was over $3 trillion. Let us not forget that. Let us not freaking forget that. This is a very, very interesting video, and this is something that I've been talking a lot about when we talk about Bitcoin and its monetary policy and nations coming together in El Salvador to choose their, choose your own money. This speaks to exactly why they're doing that, I believe. So take a listen to George. He does a really, really great job. He titled this video, Global Elite Just Revealed Their Plan to Control Your Freaking Money. Take a listen to this. Very, very interesting.
The global elite just revealed their plan to control your money. I'm going to explain this to you in 3 simple, fast steps. Step number 1, let's go over the monetary Trojan horse. So what is this? Well, there's a problem that the IMF, the Bank of International Settlements, and the Bank of England, all these central planners are talking about right now. It's the cost of cross-border payments. Now, they're claiming that this is creating massive amounts of global inequality. The wealth gap between the rich and the poor is growing exponentially larger. And if you listen to these people at Davos, like the gal that runs the IMF, I believe her last name is Georgieva, something to that effect, she'll claim that because these cross-border payments are so expensive, it's really holding down the poor. Therefore, if we could just solve this problem, we could eradicate global poverty.
Now, you guys remember on this channel from my live streams, especially from my live streams, I said over and over and over again that the one thing that the World Bank, the BIS, the Federal Reserve, the ECB, you just name it, right? Just pick one of any of them, right? The G20 nations, the G7 nations, they all agree on one thing: cross-border payments. They all freaking agree on that, right? And here's George confirming that.
Well, like so many of the problems presented by the central planners, and this goes all the way back to Marx himself, they do get the problem correct, but their solution is wildly, wildly incorrect. And what I find interesting is whenever they propose a solution to a real problem, the solution inevitably leads to them achieving one of their big three objectives. And I talk about this all the time on my whiteboard videos. It's either going to lead to lower energy use through the global population or in aggregate total, so the global population uses less energy. This is where they want you to take a cold shower so they can continue to fly around the world in their private jet. They want to decrease the birth rate, and Bill Gates talks about this all the time explicitly. A lot of people would argue they want to decrease the population just in general. And this goes back to their worldview being rooted in this Malthusian idea that the world population is growing exponentially, resources are limited. Therefore, we have to do one of those two things, if not both: reduce energy use, reduce birth rate. And their final objective, and this goes without saying, is usurping power, control, and wealth. And in their eyes, we have these big problems. They believe that they are superior to all of us. They're intellectually superior, maybe they're genetically superior. So the only people on the planet Earth that can solve these big problems are the global elite, the people that meet at Davos. We, the general population, the average Joe and Jane, the 7 billion of us across the world, can never ever solve these problems. We just make the problems worse. This is how they see it through their eyes. So they have to have the power, the control, and the wealth for your benefit. If we give them control of the global economy, if we forego our freedom and our liberty to the global elite, well, of course, this is for the greater good.
You know, this is why I say on the channel, and I talk about that, you know, in El Salvador, what happened in El Salvador, when these 32 nations and 12 central banks or whatever it was, 44 nations, whatever that combination was, coming together in El Salvador to discuss, it wasn't discussing Bitcoin, it was discussing their ability to execute other options other than participating in what the World Bank and the IMF wants them to participate in. And again, this is what Bitcoin gives them the ability to do about choosing their own money that the world has determined, to be either a store value, digital, blah, 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 whatever you want to call it. Ultimately, it's about these 30, 40 nations coming together and saying, we want to be able to put together our own monetary policy and get the foot off of our necks of the World Bank and the IMF. Because they understand and they recognize, and they might not publicly say, but they recognize that this is a plan, you know, about power over them, and they don't want it any longer. They don't want it any longer. And the reason why the U.S. has not taken this type of stance is because the U.S. has the world reserve currency. They have the dollar. And the dollar, like George Gammon explains in this video, with the U.S. having it, really controls a lot of the food and energy marketplace throughout the freaking world, because the vast majority of things are settled in the U.S. dollar. Again, whenever you see the IMF saying, oh, no, we don't want you to use Bitcoin as legal tender. Oh, no, it's about the fact that they lose power when a nation decides to adopt something that they can't freaking control. They can't control it. That, my friends, is the bigger picture.
And just to be clear, this isn't George Gammon saying these things. This is my opinion of the global elite's world view. So now that we understand this, let's go back to this monetary Trojan horse I was talking about. And this is a lot like climate change in the sense that I'm not here to debate whether it's real, not real, man-made, not man-made, but I am here to tell you that they don't care about the temperatures in the oceans. They don't care about baby seals. They just care about these three main objectives.
Exactly. Exactly, right? Is this what I've been saying? They're not concerned about ESG, and no, they're using that as a narrative, and then ultimately, you know, the central bankers and the CBDC stuff is about ultimately trying to control you and control us. That's what it ultimately is about. And again, we want more choices, not less choices. We want more choices, not less choices. I'm going to skip through a lot of this. I'm going to get to the last part of this video because I think it's hugely important. And I think it starts here. Let's see here.
Avocados, the potash. So let's think this through. If the ESDR is now the global reserve asset, most likely the commodities that we talked about in step number 1, the avocados, the potash or fertilizer, and the oil that was being purchased or sold, regardless of the country, would be settled in these ESDRs. So each country, whether it was the United...
Remember the talk of the ESDRs? I'm going to go back and rewind this a little bit. Remember that? The whole ESDR thing? Now we have to, if the IMF is going to control its ESDR, why would the US buy into it? Why would the Federal Reserve buy into it? Is it because they have to? Because they realize that this printing press thing has to come to an end of printing money? Why does the US, that's my question, why does the US buy into this ESDR? How do they benefit from it? Let me go back a little bit more. All right, let's go right here.
Was trying to send money to the average Jane here in the United States. But instead of having it based in each individual country with more of a decentralized type of global system, now we would have it completely centralized to where we just had one central bank and one global reserve currency. Central bank, most likely IMF, global reserve currency moves from the dollar to the ESDR. So let's think this through. If the ESDR is now the global reserve asset, most likely the commodities that we talked about in step number 1, the avocados, the potash or fertilizer, and the oil that was being purchased or sold, regardless of the country, would be settled in these ESDRs. So each country, whether it was the United States or in this case Europe, would have to earn this currency in order to buy the stuff they need. But there would be one entity right in the middle controlled by the global elite that wouldn't have to earn any of the currency.
And that's kind of where I'm trying to figure it out. What is this ESDR going to look like? What is that going to look like? I remember the talks about it possibly being tied to XRP somehow. Don't know how. But my thing is, again, how does the US benefit from this? In other words, they're going to lose the dollar as a global reserve currency. How do they leverage this ESDR? What is the benefit from the US? That is, to me, the $64 trillion question. How is the US going to leverage this ESDR if something like this is to take place? And we all know that the IMF is wanting to kind of stretch his arms or flex his muscle, if you will. And a scenario like them becoming the central bank of all central banks makes sense to me. It really does make sense to me. Let me fast forward it to right here.
And freeze your assets, just like we've seen the United States or the West freeze the dollar assets of the Russian central bank when Russia invaded Ukraine. But unfortunately, the story doesn't end there. This definitely would give them control over the global monetary system, but it would also give them control over the commodities and who gets those commodities. And this takes us right into what I think the end game actually is. It's not just about controlling your money. It's about controlling your life. How would they do this? Well, let's look at this through the lens of the person who has had the greatest influence on Klaus himself. That would be Henry Kissinger. And to quote Mr. Kissinger, whoever has control of the food controls the people. Whoever has control of the energy controls the countries. Whoever has control of the money controls the world. So by pushing this narrative that they're just all about helping the poor, and all they want to do is just lower the cost of these cross-border payments. Coincidentally, it takes us right into a system where they control the food, the energy, and the money.
Supply chain issues going on right now, isn't it? Isn't there some big supply chain issues and narratives going around? Without question, we know right now that Russia with the energy, China, right? There's going to be a battle for that there as well, right? We understand all of that, but ultimately, they're trying to gain more control over you and I. And again, this is not about the digital asset Bitcoin. It is about the monetary policy of sound money that it brings to each and every one of us. Our ability to choose our own money and spend it the way we want to spend it, without having to ask permission or without having to have their money and or monetary policy shoved down our throat. That's why every time a nation decides to pick up Bitcoin or to discussing picking up Bitcoin as legal tender, the World Bank and the IMF begin to sound the alarms. That truly is what I believe to be the ultimate deal there, because they recognize with this Bitcoin and its monetary, not the technology, not the asset itself, it's the monetary policy that it brings. And the global elites of the world, they know it. Our ability to choose our money, spend our own money. No inflation, only 21 million, all sound money, the digital gold of the world, if you will, and you and I have access to it. You and I individually have access to it. No one can take it away from us. That is a thorn in the side of the globalist elite and their ability to have control over you and I. All right, guys, listen, I'm going to end this video like I do all of my videos. This is going rather long, so I'll cover all the Twitter info on the next video. But I do want to remind you guys, you see the thanks here in this video. If you want to support the channel, you can do so on my videos as well, uploaded videos. I would definitely appreciate that for sure, so we can continue to grow the channel and figure out how to fix the broken subscriber count on all my videos. But the first way you can certainly do it is by hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel. We definitely appreciate that. I'm going to end this video like I do all of my videos and remind you guys of this, that old money and the global elite doesn't want you to win. But that's okay though, because you and I are already winning. Have a great rest of the day, guys. I'll talk to you soon. See ya. Bye.